I watched recently the Sly documentary where Sylvester Stallone tells about his life, his career, and his upbringing. And it became very clear to me throughout the documentary that there was enormous trauma in his childhood and even in his youth that he never really recovered from. This channel is Meditation Amsterdam. My name is Pablo, and today we get to talk about Sly and trauma. And the reason I wanted to touch on the subject is because I think Sylvester Stallone is a guy with a really big heart, actually. He has always come across as very authentic, extremely hardworking, so great work ethic, enormous amount of energy, very inspirational in many ways. To me personally, far more inspirational than Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I consider to be a big child still to this day. Actually, I can't seem to take the guy seriously. Nothing against him, simply not my thing. And in Sly's documentary, it became, he makes it very clear that his father was violent and physically abusive in his childhood in a rather nasty way. So he grows up and he becomes a little bit of a troublemaker and a bully himself, but he grows out of that and he finds his way through cinema to do all the stuff that we know him for. Rambo, Rocky, and so on. But there is something that caught my attention, which I think is worth discussing, and that is he repeatedly states that the big void in his heart, that big thirst and hunger for the approval that he receives from audiences in his movies, is unquenchable and, here's the more important part, unfixable. And he says it several times. He says, confesses to be broken. There's nothing that can be done about it, and so on. And I think this is interesting for several reasons, actually. One of the reasons is I believe he belongs to a generation. He is literally 2 years younger than my dad before he passed away. A generation that never believed, or for whom the concept of mental health and spiritual development were kind of foreign. Vulnerability, God forbid, was just altogether a foreign concept, because what these guys needed to do, they needed to survive and be strong. That's all they know. They were fighters, and all credit goes to them, and the load that they could carry in terms of responsibility, work, and these kind of things. You can see him in his eyes. The guy is an absolute fighter. He's a warrior. And so they didn't know about the methods that you could follow to try and resolve these things. Equally important is this strange notion that if you use your pain and your trauma to become successful, that was somehow okay. And of course it took him very far, and it has taken many, many people very, very far. But it's not the same to say that you use that as fuel and that you became successful because of it, than to say that you actually resolved it, that the pain has finally been transmuted into something else, and that you are free. Free to do a movie, free not to do it. Okay, upset about the fact that some people may not like it, but not trying to fill a certain void with that external validation and approval, because it's never enough. And he says as much. He explicitly says that he cannot fill the void. It's like a black hole that cannot be satisfied. And success can be fueled by this, but it can also become the very thing that makes you believe that your only choice is to be fueled by your pain, express your pain, have it be reflected in your work, such as many of the moments in the Rocky movies were reflecting his pain, and even the later movies where he has to deal with his son making trouble and things of this kind. So he expresses a lot of his pain in the movies. But as I have explained in previous videos, there is repression, suppression, expression, and actual resolution. So expression is not the only choice, and success can give you the idea that if you're only expressing your pain and becoming successful, that you're doing the right thing with it, whereas it's not your only option. And of course, success has the other big pitfall of giving you so much busyness and bonanza in terms of people that surround you and money and resources that are available to you, so that you are constantly using company and money to appease your pain, perhaps hide it, and perhaps not even be aware for a while that it's there. I'm not saying that's the case with Sly. He is keenly aware that his pain is very much there. But I can well imagine that success can become something that distances you from the path of meeting your pain, because on the surface of it, at least, everything is going fine. But last but not least, I wanted to mention a very fundamental element of this, and it is the yang approach to things. So we have yin and yang, with yang being masculine, yin being feminine. And when we adopt the attitude of the yang warrior, so the guy who goes out and does whatever he has to do and takes responsibility and just pushes and pushes and pushes, the vulnerability and receptivity that are needed for us to touch the heart become unavailable as a vehicle. In fact, they become downright scary because we equate them with giving up. In other words, for someone who's always been a warrior, a go-getter, and someone who refuses to be a victim, to surrender to feelings and to the sense of defeat and helplessness can be seen as giving up, as losing the battle, as having lost your edge, when in fact it is a crucial part of the process of healing to be able to feel that helplessness full blast and do nothing about it other than feel. Not depart, not try to manhandle it and try to beat it into submission, but to actually die to the helplessness, to die to the vulnerability, and then be reborn as something else. And that's the alchemical process that I believe Sly has not gone into, mainly because I don't think he knows it's there. But even if he did, there might be a really ingrained resistance because it feels like giving up. After an entire lifetime of taking charge, to surrender is a 180-degree turn that must feel extraordinarily strange and potentially scarier than anything that he's done. Which has been quite a lot. I mean, the guy was living in the streets at some point and really raised himself up by his own bootstraps, which is phenomenal. He is a self-made man, but he's not a self-healed man. And that's the distinction that I wanted to draw in this video. So this is, I guess, the gist of what I wanted to share today. And I'm really curious about what you have to say. And all your comments or questions are welcome, of course, in the comment section. And if you feel that this message can help someone out there, then your liking, sharing, and subscribing makes it far more available to others. And I'll be back with more videos pretty soon as usual. Thanks for listening. Cheerio. Bye-bye.